and welcome to In Conversation with Rashmi. Today, my guest in conversation is a dancer who is an exponent of the ancient craft of Bharatanatyam, and her journey spans over 4 decades. She is a teacher, a dancer, a performer, has traveled internationally as well, performing in various different countries. She is also a producer of a film. So please join me in welcoming Padmini Ravi to this conversation. Thank you so much, Padmini, for being here today. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here too.
So, Padmini, you have been a dancer for over 4 decades, and your journey has been, from one area to another, and you wear many hats. However, to begin with, I just want to talk about, the new dimension to dance. Tell me about that, and what is it that you have incorporated into the classical art form?
See, when I started, it was the regular dance. I come from a very conservative South Indian family. So, like every other South Indian mother, my mother also pushed me into that. But I had a different dimension because I lost my father when I was 9 years old. And therefore, being the only child, I was, as it is, a very shy child, and I had become a total introvert. So my mother thought it would help me if I go and meet other children in the dance class. And that's how I started my journey. And it was a very regular run of the mill kind of learning. Like, I learned in my Arangetram, I gave performances. And then, of course, I got married and then shifted to Bangalore. And I had quit dancing because I had my child, and I had a stillborn child, the first pregnancy. And again, I was very depressed. I'm getting these points because, to a large extent, I believe that dance was a therapy for my depression because, I was very depressed and dance pulled me out. And then, of course, I started my class and, did 40 years of my class. And every time I think I have it, I feel that there is a different dimension which is unraveling within my understanding of dance. So first I did the classical bit, and then I went into fusion and contemporary, exploring experimental projects. And then I came back to my usual Margam because I felt that there was so much to learn from the Margam. And it was actually after I registered for my PhD in Bangalore in Jain College. I've been researching on the tangibles and intangibles of dance. One is the physicality, and one is intangible benefits of dance. And that's my research. So that has given me, opened another dimension of dance to me. And therefore, people, I may seem as if I'm very inconsistent because I'm not somebody who will just teach and who will just do the regular shows. But then I try and give the different dimensions to my students as well, in terms of workshop, in terms of regular teaching. And I'm also moving into the education sector, like because the dance benefits should not be restricted only to the students of dance. It should be incorporated into the curriculum as an elective or as a whatever you call it. I won't say extracurricular activity. It has to be incorporated into a curriculum so that people can understand dance and the depth of its processes. So that is what I am right now exploring.
And in terms of the exploration, and like you said, you are, trying different forms of dance and things like that. However, as culture, states back, somehow Bharatanatyam is considered as a secure, a temple dance where incorporating contemporary or even Bollywood steps for that matter is a very there's a very fine line that seems to be defining the two. So how has that been in terms of acceptance of what you do and what is perceived?
Yeah, it's a very good question because when I was growing up, I was so exposed to film because my teacher was choreographing for films as well. So I had a lot of exposure into film dancing and I hated it. I thought it was not pure. I was corrupting, and therefore I used to tell my students, don't shake your hip, don't shake your body, just be stiff. But I had the privilege of speaking with two very important people in my life. One is Dr. Padma Subramanian, and one is a scholar by name Shatavadani R. Ganesh, who's in Bangalore. And when I started to learn, because I don't know Sanskrit, so I have not learned Sanskrit or Natya Shastra, but when I started researching on Natya Shastra and talking to Dr. Padma Subramanian, and my work with Saroj Khan just brought me to the realization that actually Natya Shastra is the mother of all movement terminologies. I wouldn't say classical art forms. I don't want to go there because I'm not an expert in anything else. Because I used to conduct a city festival called Bengaluru Habba. We ran it for about 12 years. It was designed on the Singapore Arts Festival. So one year we brought Mr. Saroj Khan to do a stage show of all her famous choreographies. And the chief guest of the function was Dr. Padma Subramanian. The moment she saw Saroj Khan's moves, she would reel out a name of the Karana or a Chari. Then she said, oh my God, this is that. Oh my God, that is that. And I said, what are you even talking about? In fact, that year she took Padma Subramaniam took Saroj Khan to Krishnagana Sabha in Chennai in the Natakala conference. And she demonstrated the similarities between Bollywood and the of classical dance. And she had demonstrated how the Margi tradition of movements kind of gel with pan-Indian movement, whether it was Odissi or Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam, or in terms of so many Bollywood movements fit into that framework. So it was just, I believe that it was just our own rigid mindset that we say pure is Bharatanatyam, impure is Bollywood or any other form. So I have gone through a very transition, but I'm not saying I'm right. I am not saying, but I believe in it, and therefore I do exactly what I believe in. So it's been a very interesting journey, and I try and incorporate many interesting movements outside the traditional dance vocabulary, but very interesting and very viewer friendly, because like somehow I feel that Bharatanatyam is so cliched and very so Natya Dharmi and so pure. It just doesn't gel with a friendly audience. So I bring in a lot of what do you say, energy and interesting, refreshing, different movement into my movement vocabulary. So that I could, and I completely disagree with people who say Bharatanatyam has to be preserved. If you are preserving, it means you're in the museum. It becomes yeah. I believe Bharatanatyam is very dynamic, and it has to change the course into. I mean, as it has been in the last few centuries, many centuries, it will grow into a different form. And I don't think we should preserve, but it has to be a dynamic form which will evolve in its own time in a different way.
Absolutely. And again, you have taken these shows that you have created globally as well, and you've traveled the world, and your students have again, diversed into different genres, be it teaching, be it choreography. So, what has that experience taught you as a teacher, as a performer, as a guru to these students when you see where they have moved on in their lives, be it in India or be it globally?
Well, I've always, all my students are running very successful institutions with lots of hundreds of students. And every time I see them, it just gives me a sense of pride because they don't follow exactly what I have taught them. They are original thinkers. That's exactly what my teacher told me. None of my contemporaries, whether it is Urmila Satyanarayana or Sri Kala Bharat or many of the people, we don't dance. We do come from the same teacher, but then we don't dance as a prototype. Yeah. So I've always told my students to think originally, and each one of them have beautifully imbibed a separate style for themselves. And every time I see my students and I teach them a workshop or something, I learn something from it. And that's the best thing of being a teacher, because you are not only a teacher, but also you start learning and you become very, very open to different things. I think dance should be the first thing a dancer or a dance student should inculcate is a very open mind, and not say this is right and that is wrong, because art can never be objective. It's always subjective.
Absolutely. The classical dance, the history behind it, again, it's been mostly women who have gotten into it, and men these days do participate and, do learn this form of dance. But still, there seems to be quite a bit of stigma that exists when there are male students learning this. So,
In fact, it has been the other way. Even the girls, they also have a stigma. There are parents. For example, I was asked to stop dancing when I got married, right?
mhm,
So even the girls also have the same stigma that they, when they get married, the in-law says, no, you cannot dance. So the stigma is there. That is because of what we have understood of dance. This Devadasi system has been so etched in our minds. Dance is much beyond the Devadasi system, in my opinion. It is spiritual. It has nothing to do with it.
mhm.
Having said that, I mean, Dhananjayans, C.V. Chandrasekhar, Balagopal, Ram, so many Indian men have made dance so famous in the last 80 years. I don't think there's a stigma at all, unless and until the men themselves consider it, oh, I don't want to be a dancer. But I've had two very prominent male dancers, Kiran and Seshadri, who are doing very well, who are teaching. And many of my other, like Satyanarayan Raju, Praveen Kumar, and so many of them in Deepak Mazumdar in Bombay, Vaibhav Varekar, and all of them are very, very successful. So I don't think there is a stigma in the gender, at least not in India. In India, we are all fine. But the stigma is there because, especially amongst the women, like I was talking to one of my students who have started learning. She lives in San Diego, and she was saying, I'm so sad that I left dancing for so many years because the moment she got dancing, so I believe it's more of a stigma limited, okay, wrong. But I don't think there's any, the men believe that they are given unfair chances, that the women have more chances than them. But learning wise, I don't think there's any problem.
And talking about global learning and even with classes held in India, how has pandemic through COVID affected? I'm sure it's affected the shows you put on, the performances, audiences, being in that space where they can enjoy a live performance. So can you tell me a little about how that has been for you?
Pandemic has been great for me, only
That's
because,
wonderful to
see,
hear.
there are two, yeah, there are two ways in which you grow as a dancer.
Mhm,
One is the external technique, and one is the internal journey.
mhm,
And you have to shift your paradigm as to how you want to look at your dance, in these times, in challenging times, because this is just an eye opener, because we all believe that everything is going to remain constant and we keep building on it, but nothing is permanent. So when suddenly a change comes, it is up to the person to adapt himself or herself quickly to the changing conditions. So I have been very active in my internal journey. I read a lot, and therefore I understand better. And therefore, when and if the time comes back to normal, I will be able to process the dance in a very different way and teach in a very different way. And secondly, the online classes, I'm just loving it because, there's I don't have to go out. I don't have to fight the traffic of Bangalore. I don't have to travel abroad, leaving the family and going for months on thing. Yeah, it is a little bit of a creative work on the teacher because we have to record it, we have to explain it. And of course, there has to be, at some point of time, we have to have a one-on-one so that, we can fine tune the nuances. But I believe pandemic is a very, very, it was a very good experience for me personally. And yeah, of course, the events are not there, the shows are not there, the audiences are quite. But in India, last week I had a show of my student. There were 200 people who had come and watched. So in India, I think it's coming back to normalcy more than anywhere else. But of course, it's never the same. But it depends upon the artist as to how one looks at the pandemic and how to grow within its parameters.
And Padmini, your journey from being a dancer transitioned into being a health and fitness expert as well. How did that transition happen? Because you also got very involved into yoga at some point.
Yeah. Actually, when I was learning 50 years ago, our teachers never said we have to warm up. Warm up was the alaripu or the adagos. But and those days I used to perform almost 10, 20 shows a month. I used to do the snake dance and the peacock dance, and because they used to call it the Oriental dances. So we had the Korati and the peacock dance and all that. So it took a toll on my body. I had a very bad lower back. I had both my knees were given up, and I had a very bad spondylosis. So, and therefore I went for therapeutic yoga. And then I realized that when I teach the students, there has to be a warm up, there has to be a stretch. And therefore I had, this was about 30 years ago, I had designed a fitness routine called Yogercise, where, even if the children, mainly for the children living abroad who just have one class a week and then for 1 hour, and they don't have time to, keep the energy of the body so that they can sit in their small apartments or, they can practice in their homes so that they keep their body nice and fit to do the class. So the thing is, it's a tricky thing. So people say, oh, I'm a dancer, therefore I am fit. But I don't think that is, because you have to be fit to be a dancer so that you dance in a certain way that becomes fitness. So your fitness comes first and then comes dance. Because see, dance is a very aggressive and very physically very stressful. So, and in spite of all that, you have to smile and you have to be in love while you are just like terrible, feel so much of pain inside. But that comes only when you raise the level of your stamina. See, unlike the sports like tennis or any of the aggressive sports, you don't have to seem happy. When Federer is playing, he doesn't have to smile. But we have to do that, which is very tough. You have to pretend as if you're very happy and you're very, that level of fitness. And therefore, I believe that, I've been doing yoga for 35 years now.
Wow.
And I still continue doing yoga. Even if I don't dance every day, at least 4 days a week, I do my yoga, without which I don't think I can even walk.
Wow.
And I believe that fitness is very, very important for dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And also dance has a very different level of fitness. So people come to me and say, oh, my daughter is a runner, she's a swimmer. I said, no, dance has a separate level of stamina. Just because you're running or swimming, you can't be a dancer. It has a very different level of stamina, different level of body strength that you get. Mm-hmm. And I think, so that's why I made a fitness routine only for dancers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, like you mentioned, right, expression, and it takes a lot of more energy, but while you're dancing, you have to keep those expressions going at the same time and emote.
Absolutely. After the Varnam, the first Trikala Jati, you just want to throw up, and then suddenly you have to be in love with your man. So Swami Varacholladi, and it's it's a very tricky thing. And therefore, you go from the physical exertion to a zone where you forget your body and just focus on the emotion. So this transition of to and fro from the body to the mind and emotion, it's a very it's a very exacting thing. So you need to be mentally, physically, and emotionally. You have to be so strong to be a dancer, and which is what people don't understand. The current generation, when they come and learn, they believe that they can, they demand that they have to learn new items when they can't even keep their hands for 100 counts. So, I mean, as much as possible, I keep telling my students, screaming at them, abusing them, so that they become strong. But that's what the world is all about. Yeah.
And you've also done film. You produced a film. So how did you get
Yes.
into movie making, from a dancer to a teacher to a choreographer and then now producer?
Yeah, this is a friend of mine who had a Ford Foundation grant. So she wanted to know whether she can collaborate with me. And I've always loved the craft of filmmaking. I, in fact, did a filmmaking, I did a camera cinematography course many years ago. And I love the process of filmmaking. They are so, it can be a trashy film, but still the processes are so beautifully taken. The editing or the sound or the songs or the cinematography, there's so much perfection in the process that I've always wanted to make a film. And of course, this came in my way, and it was a dance subject, so I just jumped into it and produced the film. We won all the major awards. We won the music dance award for Saroj Khan. We won the best cinematographer by Madhu Ambat. And so it was a very satisfying experience. And I met Saroj Khan, which is, I think, was just an eye opener for me. And that was it. When I met Saroj Khan and my Dr. Padma Subramaniam, I call her very fondly Paduka. I think my whole paradigm changed as to what is dance and how you have to perform and how you have to teach. I don't expect everybody to accept with my methodologies, but I honestly believe in it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And your perspective is so open and very, it seems like you're ready to learn new things and keep changing with time as well.
Absolutely. I mean, otherwise you can't call yourself an artist, right? If you don't have an open mind and we are not open to new possibilities. Right. See, it's very important. Science also is open to new possibilities, right? For centuries, people have said around Earth is flat, and then Earth was round, and there is so many things and about the human body. I mean, everybody is open to possibilities, and especially an artist. It's very important to be open to new possibilities. If not, dance will stagnate. It will never move forward. I'm not saying that you should completely move away like ballet. I mean, the contemporary ballet so beautifully merges the classical ballet and the contemporary movements. It looks so beautiful. Yeah. See, my point is, when you become a dancer, any kind of dancer, usually they say, oh, I don't have to see the other art form because I don't know and I don't want to know. Okay, this is something that I found it very strange, because as an artist, you should see everything. It's like saying, oh, I'm very happy with my rasam rice and curd rice. I don't want to try any other cuisine. You have to try. You have to develop your palate for different things. So it's very important to appreciate other art forms. And so that's what I believe, that artists should be very, very open-minded. Yeah, it's important.
So what's next for Padmini Ravi?
See, in my 1 year of extensive reading and exploring within, I believe that dance is the only tool that is so amiable to realize oneself. You know, you don't have to go to the mystics, you don't have to go to the godmen, you don't have to go to the prohits, no astrologists, because dance is I can very confidently say that dance is the most important vehicle to realize oneself. And through being an entertainment, dance is never an entertainment. In my opinion, you have to go beyond the narratives. In India, everything is a narrative. Mahabharata is a narrative, Ramayana is a narrative, but there is very strong, which keeps the message is very strong and very profound. And I believe that the Upanishads, if we are called the fifth Veda, what is our link with Veda is the highest spiritual truth. And I believe through dance, you can be very self-aware, self-confident, and realize truly who you are. And that is my direction now. My aim is in the next 5 years, by the grace of God and by the grace of Nataraja, I will be able to incorporate all of these principles into very simple material that can be consumed by kids, like the primary and the secondary education. So if we put that seed in them when they are young, I'm sure when they grow old, they will understand what it is. Because, you know, there's no point in pushing Bharatanatyam and say, the audience says, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. You don't understand what you're saying because you don't know what I'm doing. And you don't know what I'm, because the artist herself or himself doesn't know what he or she is doing. So the complete understanding for the dancers and the non-dancers to be, to give it in very simple language, not esoteric, not very complicated and mystical language, very simple language. And I want to give it to the children. That's my next 10 year or 15 year or 20 years. As long as I live, I'm going to look into that.
And we look forward to, you know, learning more from that. And I'm sure, you know, the generations ahead will definitely benefit from that. So if people want to connect with you or, you know, look up what you're doing or your classes, where can they reach out?
I have a web page, www.padminiravi.com, or they can, Padmini Ravi Dance Academy is my dance Facebook page, or my number is 984504846. They can contact me on WhatsApp. Anyway, I'm willing to, I want to give. Now, at this point of my life, I don't want to take. I have taken enough. I've been lucky enough to take from the best, whether it's scholars, teachers, my colleagues. I've taken it all. Now it's a time to give, and I'm ready to give whoever wants to learn. Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. On that note, thank you so much, Padmini. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we'll stay in touch. And thank you again. Wishing you the very best.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best, and may your channel go to far greater heights.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.